everybody, and welcome back to the Offstage Podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about something a little different, and that's going to be our student/youth ministry. Now, both of us have spent a couple of years in student ministry at this point, and we think we have enough interesting points and ideas to help you grow and gain some ideas as well.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
let's start with something simple.
Okay.
What have we learned? What are our big takeaways, big points?
Big points. Biggest point that I'm going to say that I need to continuously remind me of is keeping it simple. You can't make things too complex because your students, they don't have the experience, I guess you can say. You know, like a lot of times, because for you and I both, we bounce between weekend and students. And so keeping things simple helps us to create a better flow, create a better culture with our team.
Yeah.
Definitely simplifying things and because then that just helps them to understand the music better, the feel better, all that.
Biggest one for me is going to be we have a lot more creative freedom in a ministry that's less governed, I would say.
Not even governed. I don't think that's the right term.
There's less boundaries. We'll call it that.
Mhm.
So you can do more with the lighting that's a little more like crazy. Like,
Or flashy.
yeah, flashy. That's a better way to put it. You can do flashier lighting. You can do crazier backgrounds for your lyrics and message slides. And people don't notice as much that they're crazy or bigger, or it gives you room to try things. That's the biggest one. There's a lot of room to try things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a lot more things to try things, but also you want to try things, but also, like I said, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes distracting at some point.
True. Another topic that I think is really important to student ministry is the environment. How can your student ministry change the environment so people are way more engaged and just want to bring people along?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that starts with us as leaders. You know, us as leaders, building relationship with the students, also building relationship with each other. I never really enjoyed it when two of my leaders weren't we don't need to be besties, but they definitely need to have an understanding of they're there to serve together as disciples, other brothers and sisters in Christ. And sure, you might not agree with everything that other leaders say, but building relationship with other leaders, with the students, and also like for us, building relationship with our teams. That's a big thing to enhance the environment, because if everybody has a good relationship and has it kind of go in the same direction, then that just enhances everything going forward.
Another piece is, as older people, I'm not even going to say we're that old.
No, we're not.
Donovan's like,
I'm 20.
yeah, we're not. I'm 22, so we're not like old by any means. But as adults, you can sort of fall into the mindset of they don't need to know as much, which initially is usually true. They're not sure what they want to do in general. So if you put them on a team and they go, I don't know if I really want to be here, sure, fine, normal. But if they start to show interest, give them more pieces.
Yeah.
They're nearly adults in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So you can continue to give them pieces. Our lighting operator has grown so much in the last 6 months. We went from using an entirely cue-based system to giving him almost entirely fader control.
Yeah, fader control with presets of colors, intensities, speed, chases, all that.
So you can give them pieces, and they will continue to take it in, and they'll become amazing at what they do. Our audio guy is the same way. He's been doing audio for
2 years.
2 years, I would say. He was doing it when we were doing middle school and high school individually, and he was handling like all of middle school. But he's just continued to grow little by little in sound, and now he handles all of the sound.
Yeah.
Like all of it.
It's great because a lot of times he's around running around doing other things. And sometimes I am too. And so it's nice to be able to have the students there to be able to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Can you be
Yeah.
a part of it?
And they'll take ownership.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once they take ownership, there's nothing your team can't accomplish.
Right. Yeah. And taking ownership is a big part of growth, especially
Mm.
at that age
Yeah.
in high school, in middle school. It's a huge thing that not a lot of people do.
Not a lot of high school, middle school students can have ownership of
Yeah,
things.
exactly.
So giving them something, hugely helpful.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to just point out too is just the investment that you put into people. That makes all the difference. Like for like your example, Isaac, who is our lighting operator. Shout out to Isaac.
Who's going to be one of the 2 people that watch this?
Yeah, but I have a pianist who, when she started, it was it's crazy to see where she started to where she is now. When she started, what I pulled this last Wednesday going into a spontaneous chorus, like it would not have been the same thing. And so it's cool to be able to just pour into somebody and invest into somebody and just see the growth.
Mm.
And so as adults, we play a big role in a lot of these students' lives as far as not really being a mentor, but being somebody who is pouring into them. And that's important.
Yeah.
And so that helps with the environment of just like the team environment. Like that's a big thing too, the team environment.
Yeah.
Because if the team environment isn't right, well,
You don't have much.
yeah, you don't have much. Because then it just kind of that feeds into the environment as a whole.
Okay. Let's take environment from a more technical standpoint now.
Yeah.
What can you do to make your room feel more engaging?
Biggest thing that I can say coming from a lighting operator perspective is using your lights to create a space. Right now, we just finished a big project in the theater. You and I, we put up LED strips just to create more of a space in there. And so, yeah. But so that's what it looks like now, but this is what it looked like before. And like for me walking into there, not that it wasn't fun, but it felt, I don't know if old is the right word, but it just felt warm.
Yeah, it felt cozier.
Felt cozy and warm. Like you just wanted to go and sit down on a beanbag chair and just relax.
Which might be your student ministry. That's
Yeah,
not as much what we're aiming for, so that's
Yeah.
not the
Like,
direction
there's
we're
n-
aiming.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just the vision of what we wanted to accomplish. It wasn't being accomplished by what the room was feeling. And so with the LED strip, we're creating an environment. We're creating an atmosphere of fun, of kids. Yeah,
Cool.
cool. Kids want to be there. Like it's vibey, very vibrant colors,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And even when we just put on the light, like just for a brief 10 minutes, it was like, okay, this
Yeah.
feels good. And another thing that we did to even enhance it even further was haze. Haze or some sort of fog or smoke. Like, I'm not saying you need to smoke out the room. And like, I've done that a couple times. You don't want to do that.
Fire alarms were triggered.
Fire alarms, fire doors were triggered. Like, you don't want to do that, but you want some sort of environment enhancer for the lighting. And all that does for lighting is it makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. And so, like a good example that you guys can try just to see it, take a flashlight. Take a flashlight, aim it at a wall. If you have a smoke machine, put a little smoke in there, aim it through the smoke. You'll just see the light just go a lot bigger.
And that you bring up a good point with the smoke machine. You don't need a hazer. You don't need to
you don't.
spend $300+ on a smoke machine, hazer, fogger,
Yeah.
any of those fancier things. You don't need to spend the money on that. We survived in the student ministry on smoke machines for a long time.
Yep. Pump, 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 pump. Okay, good. Leave it.
We each had our $20 smoke machine that we took a bottle of haze, the full bottle, and stuck a straw into. Just pumped it straight into the hazer. Smoke machine. And it
Fog
worked
machine.
great.
Yeah, those
So
things-
don't overcomplicate it.
Oh, those things ate through haze, smoke fluid, fog fluid. Another thing is buying quality products to quality fog juice, quality lights for their price. Like you don't need to go crazy with the lights. Like the LED strip we bought, they're $25 a piece for 3 strips of 20 feet.
20-ish feet,
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that. And so you don't need to break the bank to enhance
do-
the room.
yeah.
Like
But you do have to watch it. I've had a lot of LED strips that were garbage, and you need to catch that early on, because if you hang garbage LEDs, they're going to die on you. And then you're going to be really unhappy with that purchase, and then you're not going to do that again. When it may have been a cool idea that you just couldn't implement well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Jason, who's our student director, when we first started, he had bought these cheap plastic bars just to set around the room.
8 of them.
Yeah, 8
for like $100.
Something. And those are cheap in the lighting world, but it just made the room feel that much better, especially in our chapel space, because that's a lot more. That's where a lot of the groups meet, right? Like the groups that aren't students, that's where they meet, and so it's a lot more of a dimmer,
traditional
church
feel. Chapel.
Yeah. And so just small things like that, spending a couple bucks on LED strips, cheap lighting bars.
Yet again, you do have to watch for crappy ones,
Yeah.
because you can buy a cheap crappy one and then be unhappy.
Yeah,
So
cheap quality.
I don't know that you can call it quality though.
Okay.
But nonetheless.
But spending a little bit of money, and like at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who like, oh, I don't want to spend money on this stuff. But if you want, like, at the end of the day, you need to invest in something. It's an investment, right? It's an investment. That's how you gotta look at it. You're investing into something that's gonna take place a year down the road.
Yeah, or longer.
Or longer. And for us, like right now, it's just also experimenting with a lot of ideas to enhance the room. Like the LED strips are going to do a great thing. The haze, also a big thing that we just noticed today. Haze machine positioning. Haze machine positioning.
Well, and the type of lights you're using.
Yeah, and the type of light. But all those.
Let's explain that just a little.
Okay, yeah.
We changed our hazer positioning. It used to be pointing at the wall because we never got any to stick around. And when we did, it looked like you were standing in a cloud of smoke. And everyone was like, oh, there's too much haze in the room. Well, when we changed over to the LED rope lights, we could put way more haze in the room and you wouldn't notice it.
Yeah.
So it went from that, oh, there's too much haze in the room, to being like, oh, well, there's some haze in the room.
Feels good.
But in that process, we also pointed the hazer out into the middle of the room versus pointing it at the back wall. So it went way further, it covered more area, and it didn't seem like there was any more haze in the room.
Yeah.
So experimentation.
Experimentation. That's going to be the biggest thing. Because what works for us might not work for some of you guys who have churches out there.
Here was something I was thinking about. We were listening to a podcast even earlier today where they said, if you have limitations, it will make you significantly more creative. And student ministry is a great opportunity for that. If you limit yourself, even if your church is really close with their student ministry and the budget goes a lot further than in most cases, limit yourself a little, because it will give you a lot more creativity that you can put into many more things. So say you find something really great that you can do on your budget par light in your student ministry, and then you can take it and put it on your R2 in your main auditorium. It's going to change the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And like a big thing that we also did earlier in, I believe it was 2020, is we gave the students something to look at on stage by implementing a backdrop. And so for us right now, we have a wooden pallet wall type thing.
Traditional, I know.
Traditional, but it's something for students to look at. Because before it was just a black wall, so it's kind of like, it's bland, it's nothing fancy. And so traditional pallet wall type feel with Edison bulbs and an LED strip, like something as simple like that. And we didn't break the bank on it. It wasn't a very expensive project. And so
Jason may beg to differ, but in our world, it wasn't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, at the end of the day, investing into your space just a little bit.
On the topic of investing into things, let's talk about some cheap tech options.
Cheap tech options.
That are good, that you can boost your quality with, that you can get started with. Any of those things.
Yeah, a lot of student ministries, they probably still use wedges or things like that. And so my cheap, I guess, tip would be invest in some good wired in-ear monitors, like a good system like that.
What are those Behringer packs that
I honestly have no idea what
Behringer makes a little in-ear pack. They must be like $60. They can't
something like that.
They're these little packs. They've got 2 XLRs on the back. They've got an aux on the front, and they're 9-volt powered.
And all that is, for those of you guys who don't know what in-ear monitors are, it's taking what's coming from the wedge. And so a wedge is a way for us to monitor what's happening on stage. And so all it's doing is it's allowing us to have a system where it goes directly into a pair of earbuds that are going straight to our ears. So what this does is it helps to eliminate stage noise. And so that changed the game for us in the theater because it's not a very big space. It's an echoey space because we've got metal rafters all along the top. And so that just changed the game as far as the sound of the room.
Here is something that if you can head off before you even start building your room, make sure your room is long, like your stage is on the long side, so that your room is long. When you're on the stage, you're looking at the long end of the room.
Yeah.
Because if you make it wide and your stage is really close to the back wall, it's going to sound terrible and it's going to be hard to light.
Yeah, and those
So
are
if you're starting, do that.
yeah, absolutely. And like all those small little details with PAs and all those small things you can do to enhance the environment of the room.
It's all going to play into that.
It's
though.
all gonna play into that. Another, I guess, cheap option that I would say is have a good. I don't know how to explain this. I'm talking about the soundboard. So have a good quality soundboard that you can have, and a lot of people are switching now to digital mixers, which have changed the game, like changed
Hugely.
the game. And so the difference between an analog and a digital mixer, an analog mixer, it just kind of takes the signal in. You can get a little bit of gain, a little bit of EQ, but it doesn't really have any effects in it. And so
If they do, they're very limited.
oh yeah. And so all a digital mixer is taking all of that into one console. Effects, gain, sends and returns, everything like that into one mixer. And so a couple good options with those are Behringer X32s.
Solid.
Yeah, they've got the compact version or producer version as well as the full 32.
It's going to be one of the best soundboards for the money you will ever find.
Mm-hmm.
At least until something knocks it out, but nothing has for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another good option from Behringer, it doesn't come with the actual physical console, but it's Behringer XR18, and it's it's basically a rack mixer that you plug all your inputs into, and you control it with an iPad.
Or a computer. I did it with my computer
Or a
when we
computer.
had one.
It's a great option.
More finicky because it's connecting over like a Wi-Fi. It's not amazing that way, but it gives you a lot of versatility, and they're like $700.
Yeah, something like that.
So
18,
cheap.
18 input, you get, I believe, 6 bus inputs for in-ear monitors or any other kind of monitors you want. And that's separate from the left and right sends.
Now, if you want to spend a little more, there are great options like an SQ5, Allen and Heath SQ5. It's going to be a higher end. They're 2,500
around that
area.
range.
I think they're a little more than that, but right around that price bracket, they're one of the best digital consoles you can get for the money. It's very similar to like an X32, but updated and more of an Allen and Heath cleanliness to it.
Yeah, and you get you also get a lot of versatility, and you get like the staple Allen and Heath sounds from it too. And so that's also another thing that you guys can look into is what each console offers with sounds, reverbs, delays, compressors, all that.
The soundboard we have now is a great soundboard. It's a QU24 by Allen and Heath. The only problems I have with it is it acts so much like an analog board.
Yeah,
There's
it does.
limited effects. It's literally one-to-one patching. You get a channel, it goes in the back of the board, it goes into that fader. There's not a whole lot of say in that matter. So it's very one-to-one that way. It's great for really simple, clean applications, but it can limit you in certain aspects.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we've gotten that board to sound pretty good. Just hours and hours of diving into it.
We'll have to do a setup video on that because that thing is complicated.
Yeah, like a setup video for audio, for lighting, for our in-ear monitor system. We'll just have to do a full student ministry setup video.
True.
I think that'll be good. But yeah, those are a good couple of cheap options for soundboards.
Let me take this now from the production in the room to say online production. In this time of COVID, we've got videos that everyone's trying to do and streams everyone's trying to put out because, let's face it, a lot of people aren't meeting right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over a couple of simple options because I know you're not hugely into the video
It's a hobby.
side thing. True.
Yeah.
So let's go over a couple quick options. Simplest option. An iPhone. You can do any streaming you could want, any video recording you could want on a phone. We're using an iPhone right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, it's the nicest iPhone there is, and
Currently, right now, yeah.
and it's 4K 60, but an iPhone nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you set it up well.
Yes.
You've got to set it up well. We are recording our audio through a completely different system that is far more expensive than the entire rig that the camera's on. So audio is a different story, but I'll let you talk about audio in a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he's our broadcast engineer as well. So get your iPhone, set it up on a tripod like ours is right now. Maybe plug a microphone in, not in some of the more complicated sound options. Just plug a microphone in and go. Don't crop it in. Don't zoom in or anything like that. It's going to change the quality. But if you can get just the phone set up where it is to look good, you can do a lot with that for video and stream. Because you can stream to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all those things. Well, YouTube's kind of hard. You need a certain amount of subscribers to record on a phone.
Yeah,
and
something
stuff
like that.
like
And
that.
so
But
for the people who are doing the iPhone setup right now, if they are looking for a way to take that a step further, what's that next step that they could take?
so the next step up is taking your iPhone and then maybe moving to your Mac. The next step up is get yourself a laptop. You can plug a laptop into your soundboard in a lot of cases through, like a headphone jack or something. You can plug them in that way. You've got a webcam. You've got access to softwares like Blackmagic's, I forget what they call it, Media Express. You've got open broadcasting software, OBS. There's a lot of those kind of softwares. If you have ProPresenter 7, you can stream through ProPresenter 7. Like there's a lot of control. If you have a computer, you can stream through it pretty easily. And it's going to give you a good quality. The only upgrades I would say are either a microphone or a way to plug it into your soundboard or a webcam. Or an external camera. You can do those too. You can plug a DSLR or something in, but that gets complicated. So just base computer. You can get away with a lot. The tier above that is plugging like a DSLR in and using a soundboard and stuff like that. But you can still do it all through the computer. The thing you have to watch for is sometimes that's really computer intensive. So like you need a more powerful computer in a lot of cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now for the big top tier options as far as students are concerned in a lot of cases, unless you've got 2,000 students a week watching online, you're probably not going to need anything above this. Blackmagic makes an Atom Mini Pro. Now this does all the processing for you. So all it's doing is you're plugging it in, you're making sure it's got internet connection, you're plugging in, it has 6 HDMI ports, I want to say. You plug in all your cameras, whether they be webcams or DSLRs or any of that kind of stuff. You plug them all in, and then it will do all the processing. You can switch on it like you would for those big fancy switchers. And then it'll send it to the software on the computer, which, of course, you need a computer for this. But if you're spending that much on a switcher, you probably have a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You send it to the switcher. The computer's not doing anything. The computer's doing very minimal in that setup. All it's doing is setting it up. It's going directly from your switcher to the internet, and then you can stream directly with that piece. There's just some computer setup, and that's going to be one of your better options. The only way you can improve that is audio.
Audio, yeah, and so there's a lot of different ways that you can do audio. Obviously, tier one is going to be just taking the audio that you get from the PA speakers and just recording that right with the iPhone or the phone audio microphone. Sorry, but yeah, that'll be tier one. It's very basic. If you want to add a little bit more to that, you can get a shotgun or a boom mic to attach as your microphone to your phone, or what if you're using a camera.
Phone or computer, camera, any of those.
Any of that. And so that'll obviously give you a lot better quality. And so taking it next to the next tier up, which is what we did a lot when we first started, is we just took the So a lot of soundboard, they'll have a headphone jack out. And so all the headphone jack out is doing is just sending a parallel signal out of your main left-right feed. And so what you mix and send out to your PA, that's exactly what's going through the headphone jack. You can take your headphone jack and plug that right into the computer or the phone that you're using and use that as the input source or the microphone. Um, and so that'll give you a lot more of a cleaner, a lot more processed sound, but it'll definitely eliminate a lot of the room noise that you get, like all the echoes, all of
People talking.
people talking, the hums, all that. And so that's the cleaner option. And then something that we have experimented with that we've never done it live, but we've done a lot of it just on our own time to just mess with it is recording and sending out multi-tracks. And so a lot of times soundboards, they have something integrated with them where they can record multi-tracks and send that out. And so when I say multi-tracks, all it is each individual channel of faders and effects. So channels 1 through 24 for us on a QU24. All those can be sent out in 24 separate different channels. And so you can send that into a DAW, a digital audio workstation like GarageBand, Logic Pro X, Ableton Pro Tools. Ableton Pro Tools, Logic are all
Audacity.
Yeah, Audacity.
It's free.
Exactly. Like you can use whatever digital audio workstation you want as long as it's compatible with multi-tracks. And so recording that multi-track, you can send that, add a little bit of processing inside of your digital audio workstation, gains, EQ, effects, if you wanted to step more into the production kind of feel of sound. But a lot of times that also gives you the flexibility of doing a lot in post. And so one thing that I will say is don't be afraid to do things in post. Don't be afraid to pre-record videos so that you can edit the audio later, because we still do a good chunk of that.
True.
And so
yeah, and that's a good point. If you're scared of streaming or you don't need to stream, nobody's going to watch it. If you want to make YouTube videos, a lot of the same gear is going to work just as well. Your iPhone, your laptop, a DSLR. If you can take all of those and then throw them in even there's editing softwares on your phone you can get. If you can throw them in there, chop off the ends, check the audio, just check it, make sure it sounds relatively good. Fade maybe between scenes. Just clean it up a little and then post it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It's a great way to get your pastor's message out to somebody. It will change lives. It may not change a lot of lives, but it could change a few lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing starting is keep it simple. Don't try to skip step, because we've learned that if you try to skip one step, you go back about 20. Like you got to take it slow. You got to start off from a foundation of knowing where you're trying to get and also taking the correct steps to get there. And there's a lot of great resources out there with tutorials to teach you how to do it. And for us, we don't have the most complex setup, and it's just something that works for us right now. And it's something that's like for students and as well as in our main auditorium, it's going to keep growing and keep changing and keep evolving. But yeah.
Here are a few great little resources you can add if you have a little extra money or not even. Some of these resources are completely free. If you're looking for tech resources, there are people like Churchfront, which I'm sure you've heard of if you're looking at any of this. He does great videos on budget options for all tech and worship stuff. He's a worship leader that just knows a lot about tech. MixU, little pricier option, but great audio mixing. You've got people like Worship Online.
Worship tutorials.
Yeah,
they do a lot. But yeah, you have a lot of resources out there that you guys can look at. Obviously we can be a resource. We might not have the I don't want to say right answers, because
we may not even have the experience.
Yeah, because one thing that we'll say is there's no right way to do something, but there are a lot of wrong ways to do it. And so, those are just some options that you guys have as far as broadcasting in the student ministry, just broadcasting at the church as well. But Yeah, I mean, I think
I think we should
yeah,
wrap it up there
I
because
think
there's been a lot of good little pieces in there, a lot of stuff people could take. And
yeah,
if you need us to expand on any of that, we are more than welcome to give our insight. As we were
yeah.
just kind of saying, just post it in the comments. Find us, I don't know, on Instagram. I don't know.
Instagram, Facebook, all those things.
We're
But
more than willing to answer some questions.
yeah,
So
absolutely. And we'll be uploading a tech video pretty soon about going through our setup as far as the student ministry, just to give you guys a little bit of insight as far as what we're working with. But yeah, I mean, hopefully you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the Offstage podcast. I know that this is only week 2, but we're excited to see where this goes. We were excited to film this episode. And yeah, can't wait to see what this podcast brings us.